wherever you may be joining this call from, maybe morning if you are in America, or evening, like mine and George. Welcome to the Tongston Entrepreneurship Summit on Education. This is a very important platform, especially for us in Africa, a continent with a young population, but we know that still we have not taken our right steps in the global economic situation, largely linked to education and infrastructure development. So today, in this event, we have a special session on accounting and taxation from the view of entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship. Again, this is very important for me because most of the times when we talk about accounting and finance, we look at it from the point of view of inside what happens in the company. Although that's very important, but there are opportunities which for individuals who are pursuing career in this field can think and do entrepreneurship roles and also create value even the inside. There's a right way of doing that. To discuss on this topic about entrepreneurship in accounting and taxation, I have two strong and experienced, I will call the son and daughter of Africa. They are supposed to be three. One of them will join us later. And these individuals are very well experienced, and I don't think I will do justice if I want to introduce them to you. Therefore, I will ask them to introduce themselves, and I will start with One. If you can do us the honor to start introducing yourself to our viewers.
Of course. Thank you for the introduction, EK. I'm currently a senior manager, the Global Private Enterprise Tax PMO lead at KPMG International, based in London. For the past 8 to 9 years, I've worked with private business owners and families and individuals on their international tax matters. I've worked across the EU, across Africa, the Middle East, and I'm currently based in London, still sort of working within the tax space. Outside of work, I do a bunch of things. I am currently completing an MSc in tax law from the University of Oxford. I also play piano and dabble in music here and there. So I'm looking forward to today's session. I'm hoping it's a rich and engaging conversation, and thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you very much. That's an exciting intro from One there. Maybe she will give us something about music here, but I think she's been humble because I decided to know my panelists, so I've done 1 or 2 checks on One's background. She's a very strong and successful young African who has won a lot of awards on leadership from her current jobs, from her schools. She has won a lot of leadership awards. So I think One has done a lot, and we will learn from the experience, especially how she is able to grow her career in the profession of tax. So without taking more time, I'll move to Ismail to also introduce himself.
All right, thank you very much. And I think that it is a great privilege to be here this afternoon to share my views on entrepreneurship and tax and accounting profession. To say, I mean, just to start, Ismail Oyewande is my name. I've got some experience around the topic. I worked in 3 of the big 4 firms, EY. Currently, where I am as a manager, I support the partners in the London office to service clients in wealth and asset management. Prior to that, I was in PwC, financial service industry. Also, prior to that, I was in the industry where I was doing private equity and infrastructure project finance. And a bit before that, I was in KPMG where I started my career, and then did all sort of stuff, especially still within the financial services industry. And I would say that it's been a wonderful experience knowing and learning a lot of things in these places and places that I've gone through. And without wasting time, I will wait for the discussion to begin so that we can shed light on experiences that can benefit the audience, and then that what maybe also for us too as panelists we can also pick a thing or two from one another. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for that introduction, Ismail. I think you've also worked in all the three out of the four big fours, and you have a bit of experience also in taxation. I think you've worked in IRS,
Yeah.
whether
Lagos
level
Internal
or
Revenue Service.
but you've worked there. So I think this is a very good combination we have here today. And to start with, I'll go back to One. How did you start in your journey to taxations? Because that's, I think the foundation is essential. What make you to start and move into tax? I mean, maybe we get a few words on that.
Sure. So I studied law for my undergraduate degree. I sort of, from A levels, I knew I wanted to study law, but I also didn't feel like a career in corporate law was for me. I had done an internship in Nigeria before I started uni, and I realized I didn't want to be a pure lawyer. So whilst I was in university, I was exploring sort of banks, Big Four, basically looking for roles that had a legal element with a bit of finance. And then I got an internship at PwC in the London office. It was a 6-week internship, I believe. And I did that at the end of my second year of university. I was given a graduate job offer off the back of that. But what was most important was that I enjoyed the experience. I worked in the tax team. I got to see sort of structuring projects, how corporate organizations, large corporate organizations were structured for either M&A activities or when going into a new country. I also got to see how individuals were advised. So, ultra high net worth individuals, advising them on their wealth planning as well as their tax obligations. And I realized there was a strong international element, as well as the legal and finance sort of combination there. And so I gave it a go and I started my career in 2013 at the PwC London office. And I trained to be a chartered accountant as well.
Wow. I told you she's a superwoman. I didn't know she's actually a chartered accountant. So it's very few you see somebody who studied law. From law, you move into taxation and then chartered accountancy. So we really have a super lady here. That's a wonderful. I will move to Ismail. Ismail, I know you've also moved through from taxation, you've done private equity, you've been into financial reporting, into so many areas. How was education important in terms of forming your career path to achieve where you are today?
All right, thank you very much. So the bedrock of everything is education. Education, I think gives you a good opportunity to explore, and then the value of the education is not in the certificate that is acquired, it's essentially in the training of the mind to think, to explore and to solve, problems that we typically experience in the world. A lot of them, name it from global warming and all sorts of things, unemployment, inflation, and many things that we see in the world. So I would say that in my background, I did HND in business administration. And so from there, I wasn't sure that this is enough to give me the base that I want. So I wanted a BSc and I wanted to do, direct entry. It wasn't just working out. So I had to start almost all over again. I got into another degree, another program to do a degree in economics in Obafemi University. And I would say that that degree in economics plus the base admin, a diploma, higher national diploma that I had, then plus my accountancy charter with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, all of those prepare the ground for me to be able to, seamlessly switch from, whichever side of thing I decide to stay in the industry or in practice. So I think it has been very helpful having a broad base that forms the foundation for everything, and then a curious mind to explore stuff, and then, to want to always solve problems. I think it has been very helpful, the base that I have in business admin, economics, and accounting. Then position means well enough to say, okay, where do you want to be here? And then pick a thing or two from one place and then build on it, move to another thing. I think that's what has been helpful.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ismail. I think that's a very important point, the curiosity of the mind. And from what I read also from that point is that you did not give up, because at some point in time, you want to do something, you did a diploma, it didn't work, then you part a new way or method that can help you to achieve that bigger goal. And I think that's very important and essential in one's following the career or in a business. Sometimes you don't necessarily have to follow the same path. The goal remains the same. If you take this road, it's not taking you there, you look for another road that will take you there, but you don't change that vision, that career you are pursuing. And I think that's one of the message I take out from that. And I will continue with you, Ismail, again. In terms of your career success, what are some of those key factors you believe contributed immensely to your career growth?
Okay, yeah, so I would say that very importantly for anybody or anything that we want to do, passion is key. You have to be passionate about the thing that you want to do. And like you have mentioned, if you meet obstacles along the line, how do you deal with it? Do you turn back because you ain't getting to where you want to get, or you persist? It is the passion that will make you to, hold on, be steadfast, and ensure that you crush the obstacle and get to your objective. So for me, I would say passion is one thing, discipline is another. Passion and discipline. The combination of these two plus curiosity of the mind can take anybody anywhere. That's what I have done. And I think
great. Ismail, I can see Ona, she shook her head when you mentioned one point. Maybe I will allow her to put something on that. Maybe she will add 1 or 2 points on that, Ona.
No, I completely agree with what Ismail has said. I think passion and curiosity for me would be two very important factors. One thing I've always done in my career is to be curious and open to new experiences. So although I started in tax and I started in a very UK-focused tax team, I made a conscious effort to work with other teams while I was an associate, and I could get away with doing that. And then I found myself working in international tax, and then the opportunity to move over to Dubai to do an M&A tax secondment came, and I took that. While I was in Dubai, I had the opportunity to transition to a private client team and work with international families on their worldwide wealth planning, and I took that. And I realized that was where my real passion lay. And that brings me to passion. And moving back to the UK, and also on that secondment, actually, I had the opportunity to do a lot of business development work, hoping to grow out the business in the Middle East. And bringing that back to London, I've been able to combine both now with my career. And that's really what has kept me going all this time. Because a lot of times when you talk about tax, people say, oh, it's boring. But I actually find it to be very, very interesting. And I think it's because I've also found a niche that speaks to me personally. And so that's what I would encourage everyone to do. Don't follow the crowd. Don't feel like you have to do what's expected of you. Be very authentic. And find what works for you personally. And everything else is a breeze, really. Well, not a breeze, but you enjoy what you're doing, even with the difficult times.
Yeah, that's a point. I think one of our speakers just joined now, Mr. George Olaka. Maybe he's preparing himself. I can see him. But George, are you on the mic and the camera? Okay, so maybe we'll continue. George will, when he's able to. I know he was having access difficulty for the technology, but these things happen sometimes. I will continue from there, and I will go with you again, our sister here. I know that from your LinkedIn profile, you are also a social entrepreneur. You've created or founded a digital platform. So you basically have some entrepreneurship experience. And I also know the fact that you do advisory to family businesses. By default, you have some entrepreneurship skills from those advisories. But what I want to ask you is, for someone who is an entrepreneur in an organization and want to move and set up their own business, what advice would you recommend for such people?
So I think there's a few things. While you're in the business, you're still within the context of a business, and ultimately that business is trying to make money. So I'll say if you want to own your own business someday, you want to take advantage of as much experience and learning opportunities you have where you are. And I'll be honest, it's one of the things I do in my career. I make sure I understand what the partners I work with want, what success looks like to them, and I'm delivering on that. And I think that means when you're running your business, you're able to think with that mindset as well. There's also the fact of skills. Tax is a very skills-based career path. And so you need to know your tax, you need to know the legislation, the legals. If you're trying to set up your own sort of business in a particular field, ensure that you have the right skill set. But also, I think, know what you don't know and surround yourself with people who can help you. You don't have to know everything. The third thing I would say, just from my career experience so far, is delegating. So within the Big Four context, as you sort of progress, you're encouraged to delegate more and actually spend more of your time growing the business. And that's something I would say I've benefited from and taken a lot of advantage of, because it's very easy to get caught up in the details and micromanaging. But actually, the good quality of a leader is also developing people around you. So that's something that I know the Big Four environment gives you the opportunity to learn. But also, I'm pretty sure every other business gives you some opportunity if you tap into it. You just, I think, need to be conscious of what you're trying to do and what you can get out of where you are right now.
Very, very strong points there. Some of the points I picked there is about developing yourself, because the profession we are in keeps on changing. She gave an example of tax codes can change, tax laws can change, so you can't continue to advise clients on that. And it's a similar areas we have as well in accounting. If you're in the financial reporting, new standards keeps on coming. Even the non-financial reporting area, there are new practices, new discoveries. So we need to keep on updating ourselves, and we should also develop people working with us. So before we continue, I will take this opportunity to welcome Mr. George Olaka, who had some technology challenges when he wanted to join us. He's one of our speakers. So George Olaka, maybe you will introduce yourself to our viewers and our listeners in 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah, my apologies again for coming in late. I had just crazy, but that's fine. By name, I mean, you've had my names. Working with Arise IIP. Maybe you might get confused about Arise. Arise has many names, has many companies under the brand Arise. So Ebrima is working with the AP and the APL. Maybe he's introduced himself. I looked after the infrastructure bit, which works with the industrial zones, especially. We don't call them industrial zones, we call them integrated industrial parks. And we also look at what is called RISE infrastructure services. The CFO based in Dubai. Again, my apologies for logging in late.
Yeah, we understand. I announced it to them earlier because we spoke. So myself and George, we work under the same brand. So, and we are also neighbors in the office. So we all work for Arise side. So I think, George, I will continue with you. Our sister and our brother here, Ismail and Ona, have introduced themselves. We spoke about how they've started, and we still have some time. Maybe what I will move with you is about the trends in accounting. What are some of those trends you observe being a CFO of a company that can help somebody who want to move into accounting and finance function?
I think what I can say is that accounting and finance is the beginning. It's actually forms a very small part of what a CFO does on a day-to-day basis, but it is a very strong foundation for anybody who wants to be in accounting. And the only reason why I say this is because if you've read the story of the former president and CEO of the American company, a soft drink company, PepsiCo, you'll find that her background is nothing to do with finance, nothing to do with accounting. But before she became the CEO and the president, she was actually the CFO of that company. So the trend and the changes in the CFO domain really has a very small percentage to do with accounting and finance. I think it has little to do with accounting. It has a lot to do with finance. But I think what is happening is that the trend is that anybody can learn finance if they want. It's a bit difficult to learn accounting if you've already passed that time of going to class. So I think what we need to do as aspiring CFOs or those who are ideally in the accounting domain, you need to expand your horizon, look at what is happening all around. Because I find myself in a situation where you need to know what is happening in IT, you need to know what is happening in HR. And I think the only way to summarize it is a CFO becomes the right-hand man of the CEO. And if the CEO has to manage the company as a whole, then he's relying on you, not just on the accounting and the finance, which is your core domain, but he's relying on you. And as a CFO, you need to be able to look at the organization from a 360 angle. And you need to move with the trend. So it's wide. The horizon of what you need to deal with is very wide. And even as you grow in your path, in your career path, you need to be very broad-minded and pick up as much as possible along that journey to being a CFO.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olaka. I think that's very essential, which I agree with you there, because we've seen today the role of accounting is not just accounting. It's looking at the business in a more broader views. You deal with so many people. Therefore, it's essential. Anybody who's reading accounting in a school, you don't think about only accounting. You have to understand about how do you manage people? How do you look at economics? How do you look at legal aspect? And I will leave the part of technology, then I'll move to Ismail. I know you work for one of the big fours in the world, and they play very key roles in terms of saving the future of accounting functions. But I want you to talk a bit about technology changes we see in the industry.
All right. Thank you very much. I would say that technology has got a big bearing on accounting and finance as we see it or as we know it now. So the rapid changes in technology, as I would even say, it has affected accounting more than it has affected other professions. Some people even say that the accountants will be irrelevant soon, but I disagree totally with that. There are a bit of things in the heart of accounting and finance that computer cannot do, and that's the thinking part. You know, computers don't think. They are programmed to function in a particular way, and when they experience the unconventional stuff, then there's a breakdown in the system. So it is a system of, you know, garbage in, garbage, and you program to do this, and when you experience something that doesn't look like the pattern that's is been programmed into the system, then problem emerges, which only the trained minds in accounting and finance can deal with. I would say that the evolving technology, blockchain technology especially, is going to, or has already affected deeply accounting and finance as we know it. It is typically based on what people say is distributed ledger system, you know, something somewhere, somebody posts something in a network, and then another person validates it. You know, there are users, you know, a lot of people in the community, and in a way, it's a sort of autonomous organization, if I may use it. So the blockchain technology and a few other emerging technologies come to accounting and finance, and it's changing the way we look at things. And eventually, the evolution of the standard, because as the technology is evolving, the standards are also evolving to meet the changes in technology to ensure that accountants and finance professionals can serve the needs of businesses. And so, as technologies are coming up, people are also, accountants are also always constantly evolving the standard to be attuned to the development in the technology or in the industry at large, because it is of no use having a standard that can serve people now and then that cannot respond to the direction of technology advancement. And so technology has got a lot of impact on accounting, on finance as we know it. You want to raise capital, for example, you need to go to the capital market, and then in the capital market now there are a lot of opportunities. People say the word tokenization, meaning that we have an asset, and then somewhere somebody can package something, convert them to token. You have that token, it establishes a right for you in that asset. And then so it doesn't need to be physical certificate like we previously know. Oh, they say, okay, somebody has a will. In the will, the lawyers are managing the certificate and they are looking for the physical certificate. So some of these things have been dematerialized, meaning that they are now electronic. Some of the things that we do in accounts, all these ledger postings here and there, a lot of those things have been taken over by computers, and that's what does that do? It also creates a lot of opportunity. It doesn't, I mean, for me, some people will look at this as a limitation and as a tragedy in accounting profession. I would disagree totally and say that it further broadens the opportunity to do more valuable things, because the mundane and mundane day-to-day stuff that can be automated, that are routine, computers will take that away, so that the finance professional can focus on supporting the business as a whole, and then helping the CEO to ensure that things are in shape, just like the other panelists has said. So I will rest my case.
All right, thank you very much. And you did mention, something critical there in summary is that technology is really making the accounting, including taxation, function, a fast-moving pace area, which things keep on changing every now and then. And I also support the fact that just because we have technology to automate processes, to automate some areas, does not mean there is no job for accountants. There will be new and emerging jobs that comes with these technologies. Imagine the AI need to be audited. Every system needs to be audited. You can be in that function where you audit the AI. You still have to understand our human accounting. Imagine that blockchain need to be built in a different style, in a different form. Accountants will be needed there. And beyond that, even if they analyze data, somebody have to take a decision. You can be part of that. So I support the fact that just because we automate, there will be no job. No, we are going to move on to more value-adding processes. And continuing with our sister One, I want to talk about the issue of mentoring, especially when you are growing in your career, because we have some young people in the school who may not know the importance of mentoring. Did you have any mentor, and how did that impact you, if you had any?
Yes, so I've had mentors at different stages of my life and career. And one of the things I try to do is to have different mentors for different purposes. A lot of the time it's been organic relationships, but I've also deliberately sought out relationships as well. So when I was in university, I had some very good friends who had just finished their degree and had got into various jobs in London at the time. And they really were my mentors at that time, just guided me through the various application processes, telling me what to look out for. I signed up to organizations as well that provided mentorship. And I think that really helped. And when I started my career, again, I would attend networking events. I did a lot of networking at that stage just to meet different people, get different perspectives. And as time went on, the relationships became more organic. I didn't really have to seek out mentorship. I would meet people and they would say, I like you, I want to mentor you. And that sort of happened. And then as I continued to go on in my career, I saw the importance of obviously giving back. So I set up a mentorship scheme for a few years. I've run mentorship programs. I currently mentor with Patchwork Foundation in the UK, and now mentoring university students. And it's great because I'm mentoring people in different generations, and it's a two-way learning process. And I think one thing I'll say about mentorship is that it's not just, the mentor has a lot to offer, but actually they are also listening to you and learning from you. So when you seek out mentorship experiences, just know that as a human being, you do have value. And so, whatever you're receiving, you're also giving to a certain extent.
Yeah, I think that's you've put a key summary there. Mentoring is a two-way thing, and it's very important as you build your career, whether you are an entrepreneur or intrapreneur, as in the employee in an organization. It's essential you look for yourself a mentor, and like she said, it can be on different things, but that mentor can share experience with you, and at the same time, the mentor also will learn something from you. And I will now move on the topic of skills, because we have different skill sets that are required for accounting, taxations, and some of them are more important. But I will talk to Mr. Olaka, how important is communication skills for someone either in taxation, advisory, accounting, skills about communications?
Yeah, thank you. I think communication is the only way you pass information and you get things done. So, and communication is just not what you pass across. It's how you pass it across, and it's how the other party or the people you are passing this information to receive it and act on it. So if we are, for example, going to give numbers to the board, it depends on how, for example, you present those numbers, because you can present them in a way that elicits a positive response, or you can present them in a way that elicits negative response. And I'll give you an example. Not everybody sitting at the board is an accountant. Not everybody sitting in the board is a financial literate guy or lady, for this matter. So you really need to know, you need to understand the audience you are passing the information to, or the audience you are communicating to. And you need to communicate not from your point of view, but from their point of view. So if you're presenting financial numbers, you need to know your audience and communicate in a language that they would understand. If I'm speaking to a group of accountants, then I will use accounting terms that, I have learned and I have interacted with throughout. But if, for example, I go to the Ministry of Finance, assuming I find a finance minister, we know these are, in most cases, political appointees. They will not understand the accounting language I might be speaking to. And therefore, I will need to be able to tailor my language in a way that speaks to him at his level or at their level. But I think the summary to me is that when you're communicating, then you need to communicate with the people based on their circumstances, not based on your circumstances. And then that will ensure that you really communicate. But I think when communicating either verbally or in any other media, response is important, because it's that response that tells you whether the information you're trying to pass across has been received and how it has been received, and the interpretation that your audience has towards that info. So in summary, these are two or three very important aspects of communication that as finance professionals, as accountants, as tax specialists, we need to adhere to in our communication activity on a day-to-day basis. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Olaka. And he did mention a key point there about communication, because we talk to different people from different backgrounds, even sometimes different cultural backgrounds. So it's essential we know how to communicate, and public speaking is one of those. Sometimes I've seen accountants or even the advisors, they have to present in ahead of a group of people. It could be the board, it could be the management. You need to know how to present for them to get your information. So ladies and gentlemen, if you have any question, you can drop it in the Q&A section. We have the first question here from Ayo Elijah. And the question it says, how do you stay up to date on tax laws and industry changes? So I think the question is indirectly going to Sister Sawaneh. How do you stay up to date on tax laws and industry changes?
So there are a few things that I do. I think the tax industry is constantly evolving. And at work, we get regular training sessions, so that helps. But outside of work, if you're a chartered accountant or you're a member of any sort of accountancy body, they tend to do training sessions or webinars. So I sign up to the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, and I attend some of the webinars they do that are directly sort of relevant to my line of work. Again, keeping up with tax outside of the UK. PwC, the tax lead for PwC in Nigeria, Taiwo Oyedele, he has a tax blog that is very helpful. I'm signed up to that, and I get tax emails on tax updates in Nigeria. So it's really just finding all these sources of really good technical tax information and just keeping up as and when there are updates.
Yeah, that's very good. Very good summary. Attending seminars, webinars that are opening online, as well as looking at magazines. All of these provide information, especially if you're part of a professional body. And there is another question, which I will put that to Mr. Ismail. The question reads, how can I minimize the risk of error in accounting due to large figures and large numbers? How can I minimize error in accounting due to large figures and large numbers? Especially in Naira, you are dealing 1 billion Naira, 1 trillion Naira.
Okay, thank you very much. The question is very germane to the accounting profession and the accountant. For example, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, the motto is accuracy and integrity. And so for us as accountants, big numbers do not really worry us, you know. And then, so you must, at the very minimum, at the very basic, you must like numbers as an accountant. You do just have to like numbers. I mean, other people may not like numbers, you know, if their line of work do not require them to do so. But if you're an accountant, you need to like numbers. So how do you minimize errors? Okay, so institutional ways of minimizing errors is to set up controls that will help you to spot things that may go wrong. You know, typically in a process, from initiation of a transaction to processing and to reporting in the financial statements, there are a lot of things that go in there. You have the front office, you have people that will support the CFO in finance operations, and some will be in the financial reporting, some will be in the other departments within the finance, other units within the finance function. So at the top of the organization, at the board level or at the managerial level, you need to set up controls. Now, controls ensure that things work the way you expect them to work. So after you set up the policies and procedures about how to do your things, then the next thing is to put controls in place to say, okay, if there will be an error in the system, for example, financial statement preparation, for example, you prepare financial statements. I would expect in most organizations, it is not one person that will prepare financial statements and then get it to the board. It will go through some level of reviews, as it is in consulting and most other organizations that I have worked with. So what you see is that there are controls in place. Controls ensure that things happen the way you want them to happen. And one of the type of controls could be the preventive control. The other bit of control could be detective control, and the other part could be corrective, control. So some control will do jobs or will do the job of preventing errors from happening, and then other controls will do job of detecting that this error has happened, and as in one way or the other scale through the preventive control. And then when we now have the errors identified, then there is the corrective measures that will be put in place. So essentially what this means is that you should set up controls to ensure that errors do not happen. And what do I mean by that? A separation of duty between who prepares the financial statement. Mr. Olaka and Onek can agree with me, and you also agree with me that in most places that we have worked, and that's which is the practice in most other places, is that as I am working, for example, as a manager, somebody is a senior manager, or somebody is a director, somebody is a partner, looking at what has been done. Mr. Olaka will also agree that if you, as the CFO, there's somebody who is your head of financial reporting, and then somebody is also working with that head of financial reporting, maybe financial controller. All of those people ensure that things are fine. So the base person, maybe the financial manager prepares the account, and then the financial controller reviews and says, oh, the account is fine. And if he sees anything, that's part of the control thing to ensure that we don't have errors in the financial statement. Then the financial controller checks the number and says, oh, this one is not consistent with the expectation. Can you check, is this okay? Or I don't agree with this. This is not what we discussed, or this is not what is in the system, or this is not supported by the data that we have. Then after all of that is done, then it goes to the CFO. The CFO says, oh yeah, perfect. Or if he sees anything, he takes care of it there and then. So these are things that you put in place to ensure that you don't give false numbers, or numbers that are materially wrong to the board or to the investing public to see, or to the owners of the business, or to the stakeholder, the tax authorities, and many other people that depend on this financial statement for their livelihood. That's how you inspire confidence in the financial report that we'll see out there. So essentially, instituting controls ensure that things work. Separating function, not one person will enter the accounting data, will prepare the financial statement, and will get it to the board. So
thank you very much, Mr. Sumaila. I think that's a key point there, and at the personal level, in terms of minimizing the errors, he did mention key things. And one of the points I picked there is expectation. So when you are doing an entry in accounting, if you want to minimize your errors, have an expectation. If I post, for example, this entry, is my sales number going to go high, or my cost is going to go high? That helps you to self-check, because if you have expectation and self-check yourself, you minimize error before even your boss will see it. But I think we have a lot of questions, and unfortunately, we do not have much time. We are given only 45 minutes. I wish we could have 2 hours for this program, because it's like we are just starting. And because the time is well spent, I will move straight to our closing remarks. And I want our closing remarks to be an advice. What advice would you give to someone who is going to school? What advice would you give to someone who is going to school in terms of successful career in accounting or taxation? What is the advice? So I will start with Mr. Olaka. He's the first person I'm seeing on my screen.
Yeah, thanks. I think the best way to give advice is not being academic, but being very practical. And I will just look at how it has worked out for me. I want to believe it has. I don't know. But I think the advice I will say in very few words is that you will start somewhere. That's always how it works. Where you start is not the problem. The aspirations you have at the end of the day is the problem. Along the way, where you start and where you want to end, you have a lot of time. You have a lot of things working and not working for you that you will need to control and work with. But one thing I would say is that be open-minded. Be ready to do tasks that come along your way, because once you do something, once you read something, once you encounter something, it becomes an experience. And in life, as you grow older, as you go into senior roles, then all these experiences are the sum total of what makes you what you eventually be. You don't get companies employing CEOs directly from school. It is as a result of experience, and everything you pick along the way, however mundane, however dirty, however wrong, it always builds up to what you become. My first job was sorting letters. I had come from doing my accounting and doing my degree, but my first letter in the bank was to sort letters going to branch A and branch B. But I had focus, and from there we moved on, and I'm where I am now. So be ready to do what is there. Be ready to acquire any knowledge you can. It will help you in life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olaka. And I'll move to Ismail. Ismail, what would be your own advice for young people who want to go into accounting and taxation?
Okay. Thank you very much. It is very important for people that want to do accounting profession, or that want to go into accounting profession, to have passion for numbers. I mean, that's where I will start. But again, we have to believe you. I mean, if you want to go into accounting, you have to believe that you've got the aptitude for it. You need to challenge yourself, push yourself. If I will use two or three words to describe the advice that I will give to somebody, I will say, number one, be disciplined. Number two, be passionate. Number three, be focused. Be disciplined, be passionate, and be focused. Every other thing will follow. Do the thing that you have to do. In all of these three things, you do the things that you have to do, even when you don't like them. Things that is right, or things that are right in the circumstances that you find yourself, and pushing the limits, pushing the boundary, ensuring that you don't just do what they are marked for you. Say, okay, in primary 2, this is what you do in primary 2, and you do that primary 2 thing and you stop there. If you want more, you need to do more, give more than the average person, so that when the choices, when people are down to making choices, you're graciously considered. I think that's what I would say to young people going to accounting.
Thank you very much, Ismail. We move to our sister, the super lady, One.
So, I mean, I would say the first thing is be authentic. I think people do best when they play to their strengths. And so I think in, whatever field or area you choose, give it your best shot, but also pay attention to the areas that are not come natural to you, the areas where you just tend to do better than others, or, you're giving compliments about, or that just seem to come to you more naturally than others, and play to your strengths, because I think you really will do well when you're and add more value when you're playing to your strengths. And the second thing I would say is you can see your long-term career as being linear rather, but in the short term, see it as a bit of a zigzag, because you benefit from learning across various functions. Tax is a very sort of technical, skill-based area, and as tax advisors, it's very easy to start your career and just stay stuck into your legislation. But if you're speaking to clients who own businesses, for example, you need to be able to speak their language if you want to be a trusted advisor. And so for me, it has always been important to not just know tax from a technical perspective, but to understand the wider business context in which my clients operate and be able to have wider conversations with them. So I think those are the two things I'd say.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's the point of commercial acumen, understanding the other aspects of the function you do. If you're a tax lawyer or a tax advisor, there are other areas that affect tax that you can advise the client for. In a similar way, if you are into finance, accounting, there are other areas. And if you are on this call, you are watching us online, if you are studying as a student, you have to understand that course you are doing is not just the end that will make you achieve. Like George said, they don't employ CEOs directly from the school. So you need to build other skills beyond what you are studying. That could be relationship management, as in stakeholder management. That could be areas of leadership. That could be areas of communications and public speaking, understanding the economics. All of these are important, but it's very, very essential to go into accounting, taxations. These are professions that changes very fast. The tax law of last year may not apply in this year. So you must update yourself. The accounting standard of last year may not be this year. So you must update yourself. And to give my conclusions, I will encourage that we all continue to learn. And I will encourage, if you have more questions, if you want to know more about what Tongston does, check on their website, look at their social media, because they are doing a great job that support the development of the skills in Africa. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Oneka. Thank you, Ismail. Thank you, Judge Olaka. And thank you to all our viewers. Say goodbye and have a nice weekend.
All right, bye.
Bye.